double angle and half angle identities. These identities here will be great to have handy on a flashcard or whatever it may be, and just so you can memorize them. I would memorize them for both the double angle and the half angles. Okay, so let's use them. So on example 1, it said find the exact value of tangent pi eighths using the half angle. Okay, so we are talking about tangent. Well, what do I know about tangent? So we got tangent. Let's go up here. Just 1 second. Since we're using tangent, come up here to the formula as you see right here. This one here. So let's use it. I'm going to put x over 2 is equal to the sine of x over 1 plus cosine of x. In this case here, we know that this was the formula, right? And that this is given us. So let's solve for it. So I'm going to take x over 2 is equal to pi eighths and solve for x. Well, all I got to do is bring this 2 over here because x is on top and we're solving for x. So now I got 2 pi eighths, which reduces down to pi fourths. So now that I know that, let's go to our next thing. Let's take our sine and in the place of x, put 4 pi or pi fourths plus cosine of x, which is pi fourths. And what do we know? Well, we need to plug in. When you go to the unit circle, we know that sine of pi fourths is the square root of 2 over 2. I got 1 plus the cosine of pi fourths, which we know is the square root of 2 over 2. So I'm just going to rewrite this so it's a little bit neater, easier to read. So what do I see here? I need to add this fraction to this whole number. So I need a common denominator, which in this case is 2. So I have square root of 2 over 2 times 2 plus the square root of 2 over 2. Now that I've done that, oh, and it should be divide. I haven't done the keep change flip yet. So next, what I want to do is rewrite this in a format to where we follow the rules of dividing with fractions. So that's keep the first, change operation multiplication, flip the second. What do I see? The 2's reduce. So now I got square root of 2 over 2 plus the square root of 2. And we always want to clean it up and get it in simplest form. So let's do that. So what do I see? I need the square root on bottom to go away because we can't have square root in the denominator. So I'm going to multiply by its conjugate, meaning I'm going to change this plus sign to a negative. So that way the square root will go away. So I'm going to use the distributive method on top. So I got 2 squared 2, and then minus the square root of 2 times the square root of 2, which is square root of 2 squared. Full method, 2 times 2 minus 2 times square root of 2 plus 2 square root of 2 minus square root of 2 squared. All right. So now let's finish up. On top, I have 2 square root of 2 minus square root squared becomes 1, leaves me with what's inside. That's 2. 2 times 2 is 4. And if you notice, the middles right here go to 0, so we don't have to write it down. I got minus square root of 2 squared becomes 1, leaves me with what's inside, which is 2. Now I got square root of 2 minus 2 all over. 4 minus 2 is 2. And I can reduce, right? Let's reduce. 2 goes in 2 once. And this is my answer. That's the answer. Let's do one more. So we're going to find the exact value of the expression using the half angle identities of cosine of 105. So we went up and got the identity. I got cosine of x halves equals plus or minus square root of 1 plus cosine x halves. And find x when we know that cosine of 105 degrees in cosine of that. So what do we know? Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the 105, set it equal to x over 2. And I'm just going to bring the 2 across the equal sign, multiply it over here so I can get x by itself. So 2 times that 105 is 210 degrees. So now that I know that, let's just clean this up. So I got cosine of 105 degrees is equal to cosine of 210 degrees divided by 2 is equal to the square root, or plus or minus square root 1 plus the cosine of 210 degrees over 2 is equal to plus or minus. Well, when I go to the unit circle, cosine of 210 degrees is a negative square root 3/2 over 1. And I didn't need to put a plus or minus here. It's just a plus. All right. So what I want to do is clean up the inside. Whoops, that's a 2. Clean up the inside. So let's clean up the numerator here just a little bit. So I got negative times positive. And I want to go ahead and subtract these. Again, we need a common denominator, and it's a 2 and a 1, so it's going to be 2 times 2 over 2 times that 1. All right, so now I got 2 minus the square root of 3 all over 2 divided by 2. So let's do one more thing. Let's clean up the inside of this root one more time before we start taking the square root. All right, so now I got 2 minus the square root of 3 over 2 divided by 2. So what I want to do, since we have a fraction involved, is I want to keep the first the same. Change the operation of multiplication and flip the second. And when I do that, now I have plus or minus 2 minus square root 3 over 4. Now, what do we want to do? We want to go ahead and square out whatever we can. And if you notice that 4 will square out. So now I got plus or minus square root 2 minus square root 3 over 2. And that is my final answer. Oh, and then depending on what quadrant it fell in, if you notice, let's look and see if it told us a cosine of 105 right here fell into the 3rd quadrant. And since it fell into the 3rd quadrant, we know cosine is negative there. So it'll be, our answer will be negative.